Hi there, Simon from simonwood.com. I'm in my swivel chair again with my proper spittoon. Oh, the Malmaison, we love it. So this is the Discover the Origin Part 2, and I'm on Burgundies now. I've got 3 whites, 3 reds. Without any further ado, first one is Domaine Thibert, Puy-Fuissé, Les Cras, 2007. And what I like about wines from the Mâconnais, Puy-Fuissé is the big place in the Mâconnais. What I like about them is it's a really nice jumping off point, regardless of what wine edge you've come from. So if you've been brought up on traditional European wines, Puy-Fuissé is Burgundy at its fattest and friendliest. And if you've been brought up with Chile or Argentina or Australian places like that, then these have got a bit of plumpness about them. It's Burgundy with a bit of muffin top to it. So let's give it a whirl and see what it's like. And this is a particularly good example of something like that, because what it's got what I call a slight New World oakiness about it. Some purists will look at this and think, oh, it's too oaky, and some people say, well, actually, I like that little toasty edge. What it's got behind it is nice pineapple, really ripe Cox's apple type of fruit. Smells like it's going to be quite rich but refreshing. Well, it's more than that. It's rich and refreshing, but it's also got a nice core. It's got this steely backbone. There's a bit of the Teutonic about it. Can you have Teutonic with muffin top? I don't know whether you can. You can in this video. But yeah, it's got this plumpness to the fruit, but then this spine of minerality and acidity that's just keeping it nice and fit and lively, and it feels like it's worked out a bit, that wine. And it worked its way out of me into the spittoon, but let's see how the Chablis gets on. And it's not just any Chablis. This is a Grand Cru Chablis from the Bougros, which is one of the 7 Grand Cru vineyards or something like that, but it's a particular part of it called the Côte Bouguerotte. It sounds like an obscenity, Bouguerotte yourself, but this is a tiny little bit. I think it's a bit slightly the top end of the Bouguerotte, the Bougros appellation. So I think the soil's just a little bit thinner. So the idea is maybe you get finer, more minerally wines here. We shall see. 2007 vintage, so it's had a chance to calm down in the bottle. Fèvre used to be one of the people who went slightly over the top oaking Chablis, but the Champagne Henriot bought the place in 1998, something like that, and they backed off completely. Not completely, but a lot on the oak spectrum. So maybe there's a little bit of smokiness in the background here, but the main event here is this lovely, like, you know when you get those chefs who do apple foam, it's got that type of character to it. Green apple and this little herby character behind it as well. It smells nice. Ooh, that's steely and delicious. And I was saying it before about the Teutonic edge of the Thibert. This is a bit more Teutonic. But that's what I like in a wine. I like a wine that feels like it's going to affect your ulcers, even though I know ulcers are to do with viruses and not to do with acidity, I gather. Not that I'm an ulcer expert, but I think I'm a Chablis expert. Well, I'm more of a Chablis expert than you, hopefully. And if you're not, write a comment below the video. But good thing here, it's got the classic Chablis characters. It's got this apple, it's got this little edge of wet wool. I had a bottle of this in a similar tasting a couple of weeks ago that was showing even more of that wet wool, lanolin type of character. The smell of a wool factory. I don't know if you've been to a wool factory, but yeah, that smell when you go into one of those places and they've got plump, plushy jumpers that you want to jump up and down on. That's why they're called jumpers, maybe. But it's got this lovely heart and purity and freshness, and it feels, it's 2007 now, it still feels desperately young. 10 years ahead of it at least, and probably needs another 5 years to show at its best, but it's looking pretty smart today. What's next? We are further south in Burgundy now. Chassagne-Montrachet, Premier Cru Morgeau, 2006, from Bouchard. Not the Bouchard that... not Bouchard Père-et-Fils, which also belongs to the Henriot clan, but this is Bouchard Aîné, which I think is part of Boissé. Boissé have been pretty clever. They've gone round buying up négociants and businesses in Burgundy that weren't doing all that well, on the way acquiring little bits of vineyard here and there, and they've clumped them all together and done something called Domaine de la Vougerie. But I think with this one they're probably buying grapes here. It may be something that they've got there farming and getting the grapes grown to their specification. Let's try the wine. Well, there's a slightly evolved, almost nuttiness, nutty character here. Makes me think that maybe remember, as I say, we had the Chablis in this tasting a couple of weeks ago. We also had this wine, and that bottle there was just that little bit fresher. Burgundy has this problem sometimes with, especially in the whites, what they call premature oxidation, where once upon a time white Burgundies had the steeliness and the life and also the high sulphur levels that helped them age for quite a long time. A lot of them, since 1992 vintage and certainly 94 and 95 vintage, some wines have not aged as they should have done. No one's fully sure why. Sulphur's an issue, but maybe that's not something for this video. Premature oxidation, or POX as you often see it. Just Google white Burgundy and POX and you'll get loads of irate Burgundy fans. So it's a nice, rich, rounded mouthful. Yes, maybe it's a bit more developed than a 4.5-year-old Burgundy would have been traditionally, but it's a rather nice developed Burgundy. Bits of toffee, bits of crystallised pineapple, juiciness, vibrancy, and I wouldn't be sticking too many bottles away in the cellar, but someone plonked a bottle on my table, I'd be asking to maybe hog it at my end of the table rather than at their end of the table. But tasty, prefer the Chablis. Let's try the reds. Our Graham has been really good. He's put these things called slow pourers in, and so it means you can go like that, and I don't get enough wine. It's not fair. Never mind. I will just hang it up there for longer. Givry from Michel Sarrazin, Champ Lalot, 2008 vintage. Now I think of Givry as honest, chunky Burgundy, and it's in this place called the Côte Chalonnaise, where there's Rouy, mostly white wine with a bit of red. There's Montagny, all white wine. There's Mercury, probably more on the red side, but a bit of white. And Givry, where it's red wine is, yes, they do make a bit of wine white, but red is the is the main event. And here it's got this honest, juicy raspberry chunkiness, a bit of stalky earthiness behind it, and it feels like it's going to be an honest glass of pleasure. And ever so slightly rustic, but in the best sense of the word. Oh, and it's delicious. Fruit, freshness. It's got this ever so slight stalky edge, but it's not taking away. It's not in no way is it green and underripe. Everything's there. There's a bit of power. There's this slight wild edge, wild strawberries, and a bit of forest floor. Very tasty wine. Yeah, I like that more than I thought I was going to do. Let's try the next one. This is Alain Géniard's Chambon Mussini Premier Cru Les Combottes, 2007. And this is a different beast. Okay, it's a year older. 2007. For me, it's a vintage which is utterly charming. It's not as great as 2005 and 2009, but from the start, the wines have been just like really lovely and relaxed, and not especially concentrated, but they're perfumed, they're honest. And there's no hard edges. It doesn't feel like there's any weighting you need to do with 2007. You stick your nose in there and you get the perfume. You get the classic Chambon fragrance. You get a little bit of raspberries, a bit of wild strawberry again. It smells great. Well, I would happily sit down and, given something like a roast partridge, polish off too much of that bottle and then not be able to drive a bus. It is really lovely, it's juicy, it's got this wildness, it's got this haunting fragrance going on. Just judging by the experience last time we tried this wine, it's going to get even more woo as the evening goes on. And so will I, probably. That's a hazard of the job. Never mind, let's see the last one. Mazy-Chambertin has the similar allure. Because I think Burgundy needs a bit of sexy allure. If Burgundy doesn't have a little bit of naughty knee trembling quality, then you're missing the point. 2007, Mazy-Chambertin from Armand Gerfoy. And this is a grander wine. You stick your nose in there, and there's a bit more gravitas. The Chambol was beautiful. It was pretty. It was delicious. This one has just got a little bit more ermine around its collar, and it's got it's more, feels like it's more concentrated. That is the terroir for one thing. Mussini is pretty. Chambertin is bold. So it's got that Chambertin boldness. Mazzy Chambertin is one of the other Grand Crus in the village of Gevry, apart from Chambertin being the great one. But where the Chambol feels like it's ready now, this one feels like it's got some unwinding to do. So I'm going to see if I can get it to unwind in my glass. Yeah, this is the dense feral one. It's got the undergrowth. It's got that ever so slight meatiness and rotting game in the best sense of the word. Not so rotten that sort of bits of it are falling off and flying off of their own accord. But there is a bit of decay here, but nice decay. Well, I hope no one's listening, but if there are any bottles of that left at the end of the night, I'm going to nick them. No, I'm not going to nick them. It's not that sort of tasting. And I'm an honest wine taster, but that is delicious. Whereas the Chambol was just lovely and pretty, and yes, someone in Beaujolais it was. He said to me, "Bordeaux is your wife, Burgundy is your mistress, and Beaujolais is the little girl with whom you flirt." Well, this is comparing the last two mistresses here. The Chambol is, the Chambol is a mistress that yes, you could have a nice weekend with, but the Mazzy Chambertin is something that I would actually think, okay, I don't want her as my mistress. I want her as my wife. This is just like lovely, long-term, svelte, sexy, alluring. It's got this plushness. It's got this wildness. It's got excitement, and it's juicy and it's fresh, and I rather like it. Hey, see you soon.